Saturday, and it's time for us to kick off the Experts program on Power Talk Radio, and that means that our tech expert, Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us right here on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM. Luis, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mark. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Today is the 19th. It is the annual Rock and Rods.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Rock and Roll and Hot Rod Music Festival down at the Customs House Plaza in Monterey.
I will have to check that out. It's both today and tomorrow, right?
No, just today.
Just today? Okay.
Yeah, it's only today. I'll be down there with my car. I don't know if they're going to have me on the Portola Plaza portion or down in the Circle, but it'll be fun. I think there's about 150 cars or so that are part of that.
Hey, I just want to do something that I don't have to wear a mask and be outdoors and enjoy life again. Yeah. So I'm all in.
And there's music out there today. One of the featured acts is Jeremy Elvis Pierce. This guy is one of the top Elvis impersonators.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, he's going to be on stage this afternoon. And then following him, and see if you can remember this guy from when you were just a little squirt, singer by the name of Brian Hyland. Bet you haven't heard that name in a long time. He was famous for Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. He did.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
He did Sealed with a Kiss, The Joker Went Wild, and Gypsy Woman.
So he is, he's prolific. He has some good songs there.
When I was at K-Ocean many years ago, we had him headline a show in Santa Cruz. My gosh, it was like 25 years ago. So yeah, he's kept going. I would say he's probably in his mid to late 70s by now, but still out there working.
Well, if you love something that much, you're going to do it till you keel over. So good for him.
All right. Hey, let's talk a little bit today from Threat Post. There's a neat story about companies relying on their cyber insurance policies to pay off ransomware criminals. And the fact that the insurance policies are being used in this manner is actually being blamed for the uptick in ransomware attacks. So instead of companies, I guess the takeaway is that instead of these companies investing in better security, they're just like, we've got an insurance policy and they'll pay it off.
Exactly. And the bad guys, the cyber criminals and the hackers have figured this out. And so this has caused this explosion of ransomware incidents, but also the explosion of the amount of money they asked for. It used to be that hackers, once you got ransomware, they would keep the cost of their demand pretty reasonable so that you would pay it. But now that they know that that a lot of companies have cyber insurance and these policies include money to pay for ransomware, they will literally ask you, what is your policy maximum? And that's what we want. They're sophisticated enough to know that if you have cyber insurance, you can pay more than if you don't. And that's causing other companies who don't have cyber insurance to be victimized and have to pay even more cost. The average ransomware demand last year was over $3.8 million. And we're not talking about just big companies like, the pipeline company or JBS that just admitted that they paid $11 million. We're talking about ag companies, law firms, hospitals, schools. The demands are huge. And cyber insurance companies have started to push back quite a bit on these things. And it used to be that if you had cyber insurance and you had to file a claim, you would take care of resolving the issue, whether it was rebuilding your network or paying ransomware, and then you filed a claim and then the insurance company would pay it off. But now you're required, if you have cyber insurance, that if you have an incident, you have to contact the insurance company first before you do anything. And then they take over because they want to manage the entire process from beginning to end. And the result is that where before you could quickly get back to work if you had a hack or a breach or ransomware, now it's sometimes weeks before you can get back to work because they have to do all the forensics. They have to involve the Treasury Department now requires them to contact the Office of Foreign Assets Control to determine whether that you can pay the ransom, because if the guys at the other end, the bad guys, are determined to be terrorists or terrorism related, you can't pay ransomware to them. It's illegal. So it's a very complicated process that has gotten even more complicated over time. And it really just shows, to your point, that it's more important for companies to invest in preventing these things from happening rather than just relying on insurance to pay it off at the end of the day, because the disruption and the cost to the organization is huge.
It's incredible that people would just go ahead and say, well, since I've got insurance, everything's cool. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like saying, well, I have health insurance, so I'm going to, not take care of myself and just rely on that to pay for all of my medical bills the rest of my life. Just having health insurance or car insurance doesn't mean that you're reckless. It just means that if things happen, something that you don't really want to happen, you have options. But it's really up to you to, just like with health insurance, it's up to you to eat right. It's up to you to exercise. Nobody wants to go to the doctor all the time or be in the hospital all the time. So think of cyber environment the same way. You want to do everything you can designed to prevent ever having to use that insurance. Right. It's there as a backstop, but it's not the cure-all. And if you have to use it, it's going to cost you a lot of money and time.
Now, you were talking about the fact that it's illegal to pay certain types of ransomware, right? That the federal government is saying that. Is that just for private companies, or does that also include public entities like cities, counties, hospital districts? Where do they draw the line, if at all?
No, they don't. It includes everybody. So the moment you contact let's say you have an incident and you contact your insurance company, the first thing they're going to do is bring in a forensic cyber company. These are technology companies that specialize in sniffing out who the cyber actors are. And then they will contact OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control at the Treasury Department, and say, hey, we think that the foreign actor is Dark Shield or Craymind or all these other actors that are out there. And if the OFAC says, nope, sorry, you can't pay ransomware to these guys, then that's it. That's where it ends. And your cyber insurance, you can pay it personally if you want to, but your insurance company is not going to reimburse you for it. And if you do pay it, then you might be subject to sanctions and fines by the Treasury Department, because they recognize that this money is going into the hands of terrorists who turn around and fund more violent activities in other places of the world. So they're trying to prevent that from happening.
Sure. Well, can't the insurance companies basically raise their rates, the premiums for cyber insurance, as a way of disciplining the market so that it becomes unappealing to a company to say, oh yeah, just have insurance handle it?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because that is what's happening. Cyber insurance is a relatively new product for insurance companies. It's only been around for maybe a decade. So they really didn't have any actuary tables to figure out how do you set up the premiums. Typically insurance companies have an actuary table that tells them what the risk of loss is, so they can set up their premiums based on that. But we've only been doing this for 10 years or so. But now they are starting to get enough data where they're saying, hey, we need to raise our premium prices. And so premiums are going up. And there's also a lot of exclusions that cyber insurance companies are writing into their policies to require you as a policyholder to do certain things to minimize risk. And if you lie on those checklists, they will deny the claims. I mean, when we first started working with the clients who brought us in to help them fill out their, cyber insurance policy checklist, it was a one-page document. I just got one a couple of weeks ago from one of our clients that was 22 pages in detailed questions about what they were doing to protect themselves, what tools they were using, what services they were using, and what they were doing to minimize risk. It's gotten a lot more complicated, but for good reason, because it is important that we do protect ourselves and don't just rely on cyber insurance as the final option.
Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest this morning. He'll be back with us Monday starting at 8:30 a.m. Online, it's alvareztg.com. At AlvarezTG is the Twitter handle. And for all your network security information and setups and reviews, be sure to contact the I-Team. And how do they do that?
Give us a call at 866-78-ITEAM. That's 866-784-8326.